James,
Raf.
how you going, mate? I heard you received some news actually. It's of the genetic kind.
I did, yeah.
You texted me about it.
Yeah, I got a push notification from Ancestry.com, which is rare. I want to point out that that's quite rare. Ancestry.com, as far as I'm aware, has never sent me a push notification.
Shout out to Ancestry.com for being one of the few organizations then to observe the sanctity of the push notification. I think we spoke about it previously, but you know, the push notification is the new email basically, where it's just like an absolute wasteland.
It's repeatedly defiled, desanctified by people with no respect.
It was like a problem of the commons, and you know, the commons went crazy.
I'm looking at my notifications now, they're a nightmare. Anyway, Ancestry.com, and if you listen to our previous episode about Ancestry, you'd be very much across this. I did get my DNA profiled and shipped off to live on their servers forever, I imagine.
Yeah.
Or at least until they get bought out by private equity and sold to terrorists.
Snitched on all your relatives and...
Yeah, all my serial killer relatives, who's, free to my respect. Anyway, but it sent me a push notification that a whole bunch of new profiles had been extracted from my genetic material.
And this is kind of one of the benefits, they say, of kind of ancestry and whatnot, is that on an ongoing basis, as the technology develops, you get updates. If there's like a new, we've worked out a new strain.
Yeah, we've found a new marker, allegedly.
New genetic marker, then you get to know if you've got it.
Yeah, so to give a bit of context, the ones that I was dealing with before were, hair color and, eye color. And do you taste coriander? Do you have an aversion to coriander? Are you an introvert or an extrovert? Are you destined to lose hair? Of stuff that you would imagine that you want to know. This new batch is for the grinders, folks. They've got persistence, self-discipline, self-confidence, optimism, goal setting, focus, desire to succeed, determination.
Oh yeah, but how are you scoring on this?
Well, spoiler alert, folks. James, your DNA suggests that you are motivated by success.
Success is in your genes?
I was born to grind, folks. James, your DNA suggests you're more determined. James, your DNA suggests that you find it easy to focus. James, your DNA suggests you're competitive. And then it comes to an absolute screeching halt. James, your DNA suggests you don't tend to set goals for yourself.
Well, I like that, though. You're the perfect employee. You're actually, though, that's probably the traits of someone. You know how Tesla, obviously, and Elon Musk in particular, people know the bloke is a psycho.
Yep.
And he's going to work you to the bone. The expectation is 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. We're not here to fuck around. We're here to change the world. And also, he may just randomly fire you for whatever reason. And there's a bunch of people who want to work for that man. That sounds like the traits of, it's I don't really have any goals, but I'm going to grind together.
I'm going to grind towards. Well, here's
I'm going to grind for the sake of grinding.
Well, that's it, because it says, James, your DNA suggests you're more self-confident.
What are your goals, James?
It really, I don't have no fucking idea. As reflected in my genetic code. I think it suggests that exactly I'm an operator.
Yeah.
Someone else can set the goals for me and I will achieve them to an insane degree.
Execute.
Give me a few Jira tickets, folks. I'll pound through them.
Yeah.
But don't ask me to...
What's the strategy? That's not what I'm here to do.
That's for the eggheads. I'm here to execute. Just following orders, folks.
Amazing. And also, as the keen Downey will have maybe picked up on a little bing and a bang.
A bing and a bang, because, folks, we are at the glass table. And you're going to hear it in the reflection in the way that we talk, the topics we cover, and our approach. Because we're in the classic Down Run recording studio.
It does.
Before we went corporate.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we're back to the old haunts, the old digs. And there is a buoyancy. People have picked up on the fact that maybe, our demeanor changes.
Our demeanor changes. It's a kind of a dank little dungeon that we're in, the classic studio. But I think...
When we used to say this, and the same was true on the Meat and Tree pod, then people come and they're like, oh, wait, this is a dankly... Like, it's not a bad music studio.
No, it's actually quite pleasant. But,
But I guess compared to, I suppose... Yeah, you're right. It's more of like it's more homely. It's more hygge.
there's no windows.
As they say in Denmark. There are no windows. It's true. And also, yeah, the air conditioning seems to either be insanely freezing or off.
Yeah. We're not here to talk about that stuff.
Yeah, oh my God. We're already so off track.
We're
this
off
is
track.
the problem with the hygge of the room.
Yeah, exactly. It's amenable to faffing about.
Yeah, sorry.
Not doing it.
If this is your first time listening, apologies.
If only if I had set some goals for myself upon coming into this room, but unfortunately, I can't genetically.
I know, and people are like, oh, you got to listen to this podcast. They got like a really good take on kind of tech. It's really kind of balanced and like without all the bullshit, and then just 10 minutes of ancestry and like talking about the fucking room that you can't see and a glass table.
As someone said to me earlier this week, they recommended this podcast to people. And then the very first thing they listened to after recommending it was you talking about how you don't know how hummingbirds fly, but it's not like a helicopter. Anyway, that's good gear. No, but we're here to talk about, well, two sets of things. Call it a double episode. There's a few things going on in the world of AI, as per usual.
Yeah.
But two controversies, let's say.
Yeah.
Google and OpenAI. So just to flag what we're going to be chatting about, yes, we're talking about the Google AI search results and all the sort of, funny crap that's come out of that.
Yeah.
Whatever's going on in that world. And then on the second side of it, we have OpenAI, the controversy around Scarlett Johansson, and a few other little pieces that are sort of flitting around.
Yes, Sam Altman. Sam Altman seems to be... he's putting his foot in it.
He's putting his foot in it repeatedly, yeah. So anyway, we're going to talk about those things. It's all very funny. And, as with everything we've been talking about of late, it's related to AI. So first of all, Google's AI results. This has been very funny.
Yes.
So catching you up to speed on what's been going on there. You may have seen during the Google I.O., their presentation, they announced a tranche of new AI things.
Yeah.
And this follows Google's pretty awkward kind of attempt to catch up with OpenAI and catch up with investor and community expectations.
Yeah, we should say catch up in the sense of like with a consumer, because broader context, Google invented the transformer model. They've got the talent, they've got the money, they've got the infrastructure, blah, 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 blah. They should be leading the pack. However, OpenAI keeps shipping. Google is behind and going like, Is it going to affect our business model, this, that, and the other?
That's right. The innovator's dilemma. We've talked about this in the past. Yeah. Google has one of the great golden gooses of the tech industry, which is search revenue and all the other sort of adjacent ad revenue products that Google has. And there's the feeling, which is not necessarily a wrong one, that if Google goes really hard on AI or replace their search product with something that was really AI inflected, that could be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. They lose that insane search revenue they've been getting. That's basically like the core problem they've been wrestling with.
Yeah.
But thanks to OpenAI being one of the most hyped companies on it, and I'm not going to say it's like as big a problem, but like smaller competitors like Perplexity who do AI search things are popping up in the news and raising investment. The point is that Google has a lot of pressure to perform in AI.
Yeah.
And their attempts to do that, say what you will about Google, they've never been particularly great at doing consumer-facing stuff. I mean, they've got some bangers, Gmail, Maps, these are all great products, but they're not Apple, and they often struggle to get stuff over the line. You may remember that when they...
Should throw YouTube in there, but...
Sorry, YouTube.
They acquired, but, yes, go on.
Obviously, YouTube, one of the biggest platforms on earth, I should have mentioned that. But also, you may have seen the last controversy that they ran into, which was when they released their Gemini image generation platform, and you got stuff like generate me some German soldiers circa 1942, and it would really over-index on making them super diverse.
Yeah.
So you'd have like a Chinese Wehrmacht guy and like a black SS.
Yeah.
Whatever. And they had to, do a sort of groveling fix, and So they've run into this problem again. So one of the big things they announced at Google I.O. is that they were rolling out AI search results. And what that means is when you type in a search result on Google, you don't just get your list of links and then your sponsored links and then like the little knowledge things that they used to have in the past. You have like a ChatGPT style bar at the top that tries to answer your question.
Yeah, and it's a RAG model, much like Perplexity. It's searching the internet, It's grabbing the content from the first, 10 results and then trying to summarize it and give you the answer without you having to click through is the idea.
Yep.
A RAG, a retrieval augmented generation, I believe.
Mm-hmm. It sounds about right
That's
to me.
one for the pub.
That's absolutely right. So anyway, people pointed out over the past week, since they've been rolling it out in the US, hasn't been rolled out in Australia as yet. So if you try to do it, for any of our Australian listeners, you try to do it, it's not going to work because it's, for a variety of reasons, I don't think we're going to be at the top of the rollout list. But anyway, you ask your questions, you get like your AI overview, as they call it, and people have been sharing like really funny ones that have come up where it's pulled completely erroneous answers, either from websites or Reddit or whatever, and synthesized it into something that makes absolutely no sense. So some examples that I collated here that people have been posting, asking, can I smoke while pregnant? And the AI overview says, doctors recommend smoking 2 to 3 cigarettes per day during pregnancy. Or search cheese not sticking to pizza. And the response is, cheese can slide off pizza for a number of reasons, including too much sauce, too much cheese, or thickened sauce. Here's some things you can try. You can add about 1/8 of a cup of non-toxic glue to the sauce to give it more tackiness. Can you train 8 days a week? Yes, it's possible to train 8 days a week.
Yeah.
This kind of gear.
It's a weird... so a lot of this, obviously, as you said, like comes back to it's pulling from Reddit or like bodybuilder forum, which, I mean...
That's the one, yeah. Like weird sources or like getting stuff out of context.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's worth clarifying that a lot of people have been sharing these kind of like memes of it. It's impossible to tell which are true and which are not.
Yeah.
It's definitely spitting out wrong answers.
Yeah.
But it's obviously, you don't know if they're true, but also it's kind of Google's fault if someone can make a funny one.
Yeah.
And it's just as
indistinguishable.
plausible.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, so there's a lot going on here and a bit to unpack. One is just like the immediate thing of like, how have Google hyped up a product and released it and just immediately caught huge L's on it? Like it's immediately been lambasted, basically, which is like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that 99% of the results, if not more, are like fine and boring, but it seems easy enough to get it to like say something stupid.
Google release bad products. They release but they're usually bad in like a boring way.
Yeah.
Like they're bad in the sense that they don't really have an audience, like Google Plus or Google Wave or whatever.
And yeah, like for example, with the cheese pizza one with glue, I've actually got a couple of things. As an aside, like, are you always finding that your cheese slides off the pizza? This is some fucked American stuff.
I've been in a situation where homemade pizza has sort of slid off. That like the cheese is not sticking as well as it could, for sure.
I made a pizza tonight. I did not have that problem.
No issues?
Not at all.
Was it because of the 1/8 of a cup of non-toxic glue that gave it a bit of tackiness?
Clag glue.
Bit of clag?
No, none of that. I just... Like what? You've had problems with stuff sliding off. I don't know what you guys are doing. Are you using tomato paste? We're using tomato paste?
We're using tomato paste. Yeah. But anyway.
Maybe too much cheese. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But people then performed a Google search to find that, yes, someone on Reddit had made that as a gag 8 years ago. And the weirdness thing is... two things. One... The funny thing about this is it's almost the opposite of the image generation. Like the image generation obviously went through like so much safety and, like there was rumors that the engineering team was just like, what have you done to like our beautiful model that we've been like training so long, because it goes through the safety team who like puts all these extra prompts in front of your prompts to like ensure that it's always a diverse audience and you must never show like 5 white dudes. And we explained why it led to that in the past.
Yeah, like they just over cautious, not wanting to run into the problem, which
they had previously, which is like...
And ChatGPT ran into with, just generating white people when you do... Or what was your thing? Like trying to generate in the meta one, degenerate gamblers, and they were all Chinese repeatedly?
Yeah, it's just like we couldn't make it not... When we're like, hey, Meta, this is in like a footy tipping group chat. Hey, Meta, like they're all Chinese, or they're all of Asian appearance. Can you maybe, make it not all like that? And then they just gave us men and women who are all Asian, like to make it more diverse.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yes, they're trying to avoid that, whatever. And they went way too far. But this is almost then the opposite, right? It's like, it almost doesn't have enough, like, checks on it, and it's just like is gonna. And I know it has to be way faster for search than it has to be for generating an image.
Yeah.
But it's just pulling seemingly sometimes from a single source. Presumably it's plugging into the Google authority, Google search. Which domains have authority, blah blah blah. We've talked about it in the past. Like Reddit is a domain that has lots of authority. The
ton of authority. Yeah.
So high in searches. So for one, there's that. But secondly, the weirdest thing for me is we've talked about before. We use Perplexity on and off.
Yeah.
Perplexity, startup, not as big as Google.
No.
99.9999999% of businesses in the world, it is not as big as Google.
Yeah.
I never really have these problems.
No, I've never seen Perplexity spit out an answer that's that bizarre. Although I think that just based on my experience of using Perplexity a bit, that it kind of has the opposite problem where it is too cautious and won't pull an insight from sources that it's showing you. I'll ask it for a particular figure or something, like a stat that I'm looking for, and it will give me a link to a site that has that stat, but then it'll say in its generated response, none of the sources that we queried had the answer to the question, and then we'll give you a much more general response. And I think that's literally just because I think the Perplexity guys have prioritized from day one, don't say anything insane, because we're trying to be a Google competitor.
Yeah.
But then it's ironic that Google's whatever. If you're going to pull random shit from Reddit, then great.
Yeah.
And so the added thing as well is that Google has a deal with Reddit.
Yeah.
And I feel for AI training, and I feel like the over-indexing must have something to do with that.
Yeah, because it can pull directly from the Reddit API or whatever.
Yeah.
That it somehow that it's kind of pushing that.
Yeah, and I think there's an interesting problem that people are kind of running into. And I read a interesting blog. I think it might have been Jan LeCun, he might have said something like this. He's the chief
Meta guy,
the chief AI scientist at Meta, and has been doing this stuff for decades.
Yeah, bit of a legend I say legend, not in the Aussie way, he's a legend in the AI circles, but he also just goes off on.
Yeah, he's always popping off, and he's also he's always sort of tempering expectations. Because remember we've talked about this in the past that OpenAI, and we can talk about this in a bit, are always just hype.
Yeah,
we're 2 seconds away from AGI.
Yeah,
because they're kind of incentivized to do that because of their business structure.
And Jan LeCun is your cat is 400,000 times smarter than an AI model.
Than this thing that I've spent years working on. Sucks.
Yeah, it's this is shit.
Yeah.
Your cat vomiting and then eating the vomit is a million times smarter than we've just spent $40 billion trying to train this model.
This product I just launched. Yeah. Yeah, and again, this kind of plays into the Meta open source thing where they definitely don't want an insane hype cycle about what they're doing necessarily. But he kind of made the point, and other people have made it too, that the first 80% of getting results like this out of LLMs is relatively simple. Synthesize all this data, use the probability engine of an LLM to spit out appreciable answers. But that last 20% or even last 10% of just actually making sure that you're not hallucinating and everything's right and verified is insanely difficult.
Yeah.
To the point of it being I don't know, maybe we won't solve it with LLMs. Yeah. And this is kind of...
this has always been my kind of... Well, not always been, but it's certainly, I'd say for the last 12 months, let's say. It's probabilistic.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, an AI is trying to work out what the most probable answer should be. And that's fine in certain cases. If it's TikTok trying to work out what you're probably going to like the next video. It doesn't actually matter if it's wrong 10% of the time. It literally doesn't matter.
You just swipe past it.
You just swipe past it. And if you don't engage with an ad or whatever it is, or, Uber, it's trying to predict who the most efficient Uber driver would be to pick you up. And sometimes no one even knows if when actually there actually would have been a more efficient driver.
Yeah, it doesn't
matter at all. But in the case of when it's trying to give you a fact,
when you have a bit of information that you're trying to recall from the fucking latent space, you're how many people live in the United States of America, and it says 900 million. That's just wrong.
Yeah, totally.
Or how many cigarettes should my baby smoke a day?
Yeah.
The answer is 0. Oh, Actually,
Well, we don't. Well, I mean, this is the thing.
we don't know, folks.
Are any of these? Do we know any of these are wrong?
That's true, right? Everything.
Would glue not stop cheese falling off a pizza?
Life is probabilistic. You know, there's no yes or no answers.
Well, actually,
Foucault was saying this kind of crap.
absolutely. Baudrillard, you know.
We're not going to dig too deep into this, but just dwell on it. Sundar Pichai went on one of the Verge podcasts with Nilay Patel, the editor of The Verge, and basically had a very testy conversation. I think it's worth listening to. I'll drop the link in the show notes. It was about this stuff, basically, where Nilay Patel was sort of interrogating him on the fact of, like, you've just rolled out this thing that is spitting out bizarre answers. And the example he used was, like, in your own presentation at Google I.O., you had, like, a wrong answer up on the screen, which was something like, you know, fixing a problem with a film camera, and the answer it gave, like, on the Google stage was, like, opening up the camera and, like, jiggling it around or something, like exposing it to light.
Yeah.
And he was like, and that would just destroy the film. And Sundar Pichai came back and just started, like, arguing that specific point. He was like, well, some of the subject matter experts we spoke to. It's like, fuck, mate, you just don't go down that route.
Yeah. Don't get into a shit fight, like a forum-esque, like...
You as Google CEO should not be litigating, like, individual responses that your thing is spat out. He also talked about...
Well, also, because, like, you know, he's kind of implying there... I mean, I guess, he does want to defend the idea that, like, there aren't checks and balances for a Google I.O., but also it's like, the answer there is, like, the thing's going to make mistakes. We're moving fast. We know this is going to be the future, and we're learning it. You know, there's an obvious kind of move there.
And he talked about basically, hallucinations aren't really a solved problem. We've got some ideas, but like a bit of a shrug, which kind of makes sense on the one hand, in the sense that, like, you know, this is a developing technology, people are working on it, finding solutions. But on the other side, it's like Google has, like, a reputation to defend, which is, like, they organize the world's information, and we've talked about it time and time again. Google search has gotten progressively worse for a number of reasons, some of which are Google's fault in the way that they actually organize information. And on the other side,
it's just like an end result, basically, of content production being free and people exploiting the systems.
People exploit, like, seeing how Google works and just, like,
the arms race,
changing their exactly the SEO arms race. Which, you know, I suppose there are things Google could have done to prevent, but
I mean, the latest change, it seems to be, because you see people freaking out about this, as people whose lives revolved around developing businesses reliant on, like, basically making ClickFarm, you know, sites that rely on affiliate marketing and ad revenue, is that it seems like a lot of them have basically had their shit wrecked recently, in that, like, traffic has just plummeted over the last 12 months. If you're, like, a game reviewing website that's actually just affiliate marketing links and advertising, basically, unless you have a product. If you're an e-commerce site, it's less, like, it seems to be like it's checking... Who knows? Sorry. Like, this is me just reading the tea leaves and just vaguely seeing what's popping. But, like, if Google sees that you have, like, a shopping cart and you sell products and you're not, like, a drop shipper or whatever, then it will prioritize you much higher than a website that's just a bunch of affiliate links to Amazon and, you know, that's pounded with ads.
Yeah. Totally.
But, you know, they're trying to... As I said, it's part of the arms race, right? So...
Yeah, exactly. But the point being that, yes, Google has kind of declined in quality for a variety of reasons, not all of which are their fault. But at the same time, like, it would very, very rarely provide you with just an answer that is flat out wrong. And it's strange to see Google, and obviously this is because of a whole bunch of different pressures, to accept, like, okay, this system is going to give dog shit responses, at least some of the time.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is also, though, like, if Google surfaces, like, 10 links that the top 3 are actually, like, dodgy and weird, you still kind of don't blame Google, whereas this is Google giving you the answer from Google.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, it is authoritatively saying, like, this is the AI response. It's coming from Gemini.
Yeah.
Or some particular rollout of Gemini. And it's, like, smack bang at the top. You don't click through to see anything. You know, it's the same as, because, you know, Google has been pulling with, you know, quote unquote AI or whatever, like the knowledge base or knowledge graph stuff in the past, and have been doing that for like 10 years. Where, like, if you search population of Australia, it will give you, and has given you for a very long time, a number at the top, which comes from a reputable source. So they've
typically Wikipedia or whatever.
They've generally agreed that, like...
Although, humorously, our mutual friend, Rowan Dix, aka Joyride, aka the guy who started the Engadine Macca's thing. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
If you search how tall is Joyride, it always would come up with like 26,203 centimeters or whatever, because it was like Joyride 26, 203 centimeters, like towering above whatever, from like a Sydney Morning Herald article, and so it just was misinterpreted.
Right. Okay. Well, he's a tall guy.
He's a tall guy,
but it's not quite that tall.
However, yes, that's very rare that it makes a
dramatic mistake like that. But now it's kind of spitting out absurd stuff. And the latest update, which The Verge reported on yesterday, is that they're now manually going through and basically removing the ones that have gone viral. Which again is just like, that's a very funny way of doing like curation.
We're back to Yahoo.
An editorial where they'd like, okay, we have to target the ones that people are sharing and are getting a ton of retweets, and other people will attempt to replicate. Yeah. That's like how cool. Which is just, again, a funny place for Google to be in. And I guess they're probably prioritizing for safety as well, like, smoking cigarettes while pregnant or whatever. They probably don't want that sitting on there specifically.
What to do when baby crying.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, just give it some whiskey. It doesn't. Sorry, for the record, it didn't say that. But like, there is, I guess, one could make the claim that like this is bad because it could be giving advice that people could actually. Like, no one's going to put glue in a pizza, you'd hope, unless it's like a base Gen Z thing to do, which it might be, and good for them.
Yeah, who knows? If TikTok's telling you to do it, you should do it.
But, I can see the wowzer argument for like, this is dangerous, what they're doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But the other argument, which is kind of, yes, this is all very funny. Agreed. But the other side of the argument, and the other one that people are sort of kicking up a stink about, is that what does this mean for like the humble yeoman content producer who's making a website? Everyone from major publishers who came out really strong, like the American peak body for publishers came out really strong against this AI summary stuff, because on the basis of, if Google's just giving you the answers synthesized from the world's content, where does that leave the people who are actually making the content? Yeah. Because without getting too far into it, if you're a major publisher or you run a website, they are really the only reliable source of traffic now is Google. Meta is not sending you any traffic.
No, it's shut down.
Unless you're paying for ads.
Yeah.
Twitter/X was never good at referring content. I think it's worse now. But it was never good at it, even at the peak. When I was editing Business Insider Pedestrian, you could get a post that went viral on Twitter and no one had actually clicked or read the link. Yeah. So there's that. So Google's like the last remaining bastion.
Yeah. And like Facebook, go to a friggin' major news publisher's Facebook page and they could have 5 million followers and like look at the post, and which are usually links back obviously to their website, probably semi-automated or fully automated, and they'll have like 3 likes.
Except the Daily Mail, which is still absolutely thriving based on me looking at their page the other day, and good on them. But so the response from that's pretty wild. That obviously also opens up the level of question where it's like, well, who's going to make new content? Yeah. If there's no reason to do it and no one's ever going to fucking see it.
Well, exactly. If like your model is that people look at ads on your website because they click through Google, if they're not clicking through, why are you making the content?
Yeah.
And again, I think we spoke about this early AI with the concept of like, you can imagine, like they already are, partnership deals where the LLMs get access to certain APIs or whatever, and obviously it only benefits at the current top of the top, the New York Times, the Washington Post, whoever. Then everyone else gets just smashed. And other than the independent 1,000 true fans.
Yeah, exactly.
Folks like, the humble podcaster.
Exactly.
Direct one-to-one relationships, not mediated via some LLM or third party.
It's pure word of mouth. People say, you got to listen to these guys. And then you plug it in and it's Raf saying, now how the hell does a hummingbird fly? How the hell does that work? It's not like a helicopter. I'll tell you that much. Anyway, but it was quite funny because, again, Sundar Pichai on this Verge podcast got confronted with this because obviously,
The hummingbird question?
the question, and he was like, "That's interesting. That's an interesting question." And obviously Nilay Patel from The Verge was very much invested in this content-making publisher sort of angle, and I don't think Sundar's answer was particularly compelling. He was sort of like, I care deeply about the web. I've been working on the web for years. And he was like, but, humans are curious creatures.
That's a good answer.
He was like, they'll see a link and they click on it.
Yeah.
Our research shows that they then click a bunch of different links to keep reading and find out more. And I was like, really? I find that super hard to believe.
A monkey once climbed down from the tree, saw the savannah desert, and started to walk across that desert.
We're a striving species.
Took to its hind legs.
That's exactly right. There was at one point deep in history, a monkey stood up and looked above the tall grass and said, "There are many worlds to conquer."
Yeah, I agree with Sundar on this point.
So he was basically like, our research shows that people may get an answer from the AI, but then because of that boundless curiosity, they click and they read and they go beyond. And again, it's just like, what are you talking about? I mean, you can use that as an argument for fucking anything. Like the indomitable human spirit to learn and grow. It's probably not that compelling to like someone who runs a fucking portable air conditioner blog that has seen their Google traffic go to zero. He's saying to you, well, just dream bigger,
What do you think? Will see the mountain that is our AI result,
yeah,
and they'll think, what's behind that mountain?
Do you think that Magellan sat down feeling sorry for himself? No, he got in a fucking Portuguese ship and circumnavigated the world. And that could be you. But, I guess this is a guy who's trying to massage, and as an organization, a fairly tectonic change. I mean, even if you don't...
Their excuses are getting worse now. Like, honestly, because they used to be like, oh, no, we see ourselves as benefiting publishers, right? It was we are actually the window to find publication and our algorithm. And, Facebook will say this, Google says whatever. Like, we're helping surface the best kind of content. And now it's just like, well...
Yeah, it's like, well, thanks for all the data. We're going to cut and run now.
Yeah, well, I know you guys will be right because of the tenacity of the human spirit. Moving on.
Have you considered opening a shop? Working at a newsagent. Yeah, it's kind of funny. But, yeah, so Google's going to keep stumbling through their AI rollout.
And more broadly, though, it is an interesting question. Like, where does the content come from? I know people talk about it. What do they call it? AI soup or whatever, sort of recurrence. There's some word for it. Like, like what does...
AI is going to spit out slop that the next AI gets trained on.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, when you think about the fact that basically every AI, and I'm not going to say every, but a lot of them that aren't GPT are trained on GPT outputs.
Yeah.
That's like the quickest way to hack together.
Yeah.
And you can tell because, like, the same weird errors or strange inflections that GPT has, they pop up in other AI systems because they're just trained on GPT outputs.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see that happening on a constant scale as, like, new models come out. They're trained on some of the slop that's produced by other models.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to an interview with the CTO of Microsoft who was talking about basically this question, and he kind of pivoted the question to talking more about like coding, using LLMs for code, and like this kind of question of like, okay, you've all slurped up all of the data that's on, Stack Overflow and all of these places. How do you make your next model better? And he was like, we use models that create this code that runs programs. We then have like a series of different tests to ensure that the code actually compiles and this, that, and the other. And, at scale, we're training our new models on this generated stuff, which is kind of like, I can kind of see that working in code, assuming that it's actually like their tests and everything work. For LLMs, like language that's not code language, like English, for example.
Yep.
Spanish.
Love that. Oh, yep.
Big on Chinese.
You've lost me.
Seems a bit weirder. Like, is literally just, is Delve going to be, we say like a lot, we're millennials, just it happened to us.
Yeah, Delve and multifaceted are just going to, I mean, I think that's an absolute output where it's just like, at least in published material, Words like delve, which didn't occur as often in Western English, just start fucking popping up because they get churned up and spat out by the machine.
I'm just wondering if like 8-year-olds and stuff will just be saying delve, delve. You know, they'll just be saying delve, like we say like. You
It's
know,
kind of a nice word.
it is a nice word.
Let's delve into that.
Let's double click on that. See, it's replaced that from the millennials. Thank you for tuning in. This episode, we don't do this all the time, but this particular episode, there was a lot to talk about. It went very long, and so we split it into 2 parts. If you want to hear the second part, well, I mean, if you're already a Down Premium subscriber, you'll obviously get it. Like, you're going to hear it, the second half of this. However, if you're not, you should sign up.
Subscribe, and you'll hear the next part where we talk about OpenAI's very, very bad couple of weeks.